Hello and welcome. My name is Mason Fecht, and today I'm going to be going over how to buy a penny stock breakout, which personally is my favorite setup, long setup that is, in the entire stock market. I guess the penny stock niche in the stock market. And what I love about this trade is that I believe anybody can do it. I think this is probably the simplest trade out there. And in my opinion, if you're trying to grow a small account, if you had to pick just one setup to focus on, this would be it for sure. This would definitely be it. Before we really get going, I just want to let you know that I'm still a little bit new to all of this video editing and stuff, and I've been having a few technical difficulties. So throughout this video, if there's occasionally a little black screen or something like that, please forgive me. I'm not a professional when it comes to this stuff, so um, yeah, but I'm gonna do my best to provide you with my understanding of this specific pattern. So let's go ahead and move on. Uh, Already having a few difficulties. Just give me 1 second. Okay, great. So who am I? As I said, my name is Mason Fecht. I am a penny stock trader who has managed to realize about $200,000 in profits over the last 2 months, which ranges from late August of 2018 through late October of 2018. If you haven't checked out my other content, at the time of this video, I only have out a blog post. My initial account size was 17.2 thousand, and I've managed to take that small amount of money and as I just mentioned, make just about $200,000 in profits. So I'm pretty proud of that accomplishment up to this point. I don't plan on settling. Like I've the past 2 weeks while the market's been coming down, I've been enjoying myself, kind of taking a break. But I'm looking to become a millionaire trader, and so with that being said, I'm a student in Timothy Sykes's Millionaire Challenge. I've been a student since May of 2017, I believe. That should be correct. If you're not familiar with Tim Sykes and his mentorship programs that he has, he's a great guy. I owe everything that I've been able to accomplish up to this point, I owe to him. So definitely check out his Millionaire Challenge. It's not for everybody. He always talks about how it's only for his most dedicated students. I completely agree. If you're not dedicated, I wouldn't quite apply for the challenge yet. But hey, I know he has some other programs and stuff. Go check him out. I can't really tell you all the details about it, but he's a great source to learn about the penny stock market. As you see right here, I pointed out that my experience is 1.5 years specifically trading in this niche. I bring that up because I've been asked by a lot of people to make this video, to start producing some content, because I've managed to find success in the market, and I have no problem doing that. But I just want to point out that even though I have found some success, that doesn't mean that essentially, it doesn't mean I'm qualified to be a mentor. Personally, my rule, I'm big. One of my my personal philosophy is, if you want to learn how to do something, you need to go find a mentor who's been extremely successful in that given field. And one of my requirements is that they have to have a minimum of 10 to 20 years of experience. And personally, that's why I chose Tim. Um, but if you're trying to learn stock trading from me, that's I don't necessarily agree with it. But with that being said, we'll call that my little disclaimer or whatever. I'm happy to share my personal, thought process on some of the setups that have made me successful up to this point. Last thing I want to say before we delve into the content, just so you know a little bit more about me, because I'm not just some random guy on the screen. I'd like to get to know, everybody in this trading community. So basically, um, I was in college. I'm 21 years old, by the way. I was in college, business student at Texas Tech University, pursuing energy commerce, which is the business side of the oil and gas industry. And I decided it just wasn't for me. So I dropped out early 2018, and it wasn't easy. I laid out a plan, but I didn't really see everything come to fruition exactly the way I wanted it to. Um, but here I am. I don't want to go into all those details, but I've managed to find some success so far in what I enjoy doing, and I'm pretty happy about that. Moving forward, I'm actually starting a podcast business with a really good friend of mine. He's brilliant, very intelligent, and we're excited to be able to offer some value out into the world and share the ideas and perspectives that we believe will help all of us grow more, become more, and achieve more. And lastly, everything I do, as you get to know me a little bit better, everything I do is for my long-term goal, the biggest goal I have for myself, that highest vision of myself that I see, and that is my acting career. I'm interested, I'm an aspiring actor. That's what I want to do with myself. I love trading. I love the concept of podcasting, but the end goal for me is acting. So I guess I keep saying lastly, but if you find value here, if you're interested to see what's going on in my life, you can follow me on any social media platform. My username is going to be the same for all of them. It's Mason_Fecht. All right, guys. Well, with that being said, let us move on. And like I said, every time I transition from a slide, just bear with me for just a moment so I can get everything pulled up correctly. Okay. So why buy breakouts? I mentioned earlier on that this is my favorite setup. Why buy a breakout? Well, first of all, I think that this is a beginner trade. I think it's one of the easiest setups in the market. Nothing is easy in the market, but in my opinion, this is one of the easier setups. So anybody can do it. Next, the simplicity behind it. Everyone, every single person who's a trader, even people who aren't traders, even if you know the littlest things, the basics of technical analysis, you know what a breakout is. Everybody knows what a breakout is, okay? Maybe there's a few people who don't, but pretty much anyone who's involved in the stock market knows what a breakout is. And I think that's extremely important. You'll understand a little bit more why I think it's extremely important when we move on later in this presentation and when I break down a very specific trade that I took a few weeks back. Lastly, what I wrote down here was that breakouts have the highest potential upside among trade setups. I can't necessarily statistically back that up. I'm pretty damn confident, though, that that is correct. At least from my experience, breakouts have the highest potential upside. And, I know Stephen Ducks is very big on spreadsheets and stuff. And I'm pretty sure I remember, his results verified my claim that breakouts do, in fact, have the highest potential upside. Okay, moving on. All right, so the specific example I'm going to go over here was a trade on PURA. It was a marijuana stock. It was hot a few weeks back. I'll pull up my Profitly account. By the way, something I'm extremely proud of is that, and you can see on Profitly, I'm a completely transparent trader. Originally I wasn't too sure if I wanted to post all of my trades, but the more I've gotten to know this industry, I don't want to sit here and hate on anybody, but there's a lot of fakes. I think a lot of people are full of shit in this industry, to be frank. And my mentor Timothy Sykes, my other mentors Tim Grattani, Mark Crook, Michael Good, Stephen Dux, etc. All these guys have posted all their trades. They're willing to show their success, the wins and the losses, and I'm happy to do the same. So yeah, you can check me out on Profitly. All my wins, all my losses are there. You can see my profit chart. You'll actually notice that I only win about half the time. So I would say one of the biggest reasons I've been able to grow exponentially is I cut losses quickly. But there's also another component to that. I won't necessarily get into that in this video. Timothy Sykes' rule number one is cut losses quickly, which I completely agree with that. But I also borrowed Tim Grattani's concept of cutting losses, and I cut losses intelligently as well. So it's a combination of cutting losses quickly and cutting them intelligently. But I digress. So let's get back to the breakout, specifically the PURA trade. And let's do that. Okay, so you'll see that my commentary on this trade is that it's an OTC multi-day breakout, not my usual style, but I anticipated the breakout and then sold into the morning spike. Patience paid dividends on this one. Not as much money as my MRMD trade, which was I think a few days before this, but nearly flawless execution in my opinion. Best trade of my career, no doubt. I think up to this point, RLBD, if you look at my Profitly account, I'd say RLBD definitely rivals this one. But I was really, really happy about this trade. It was very easy for me. I did not get emotional. So I'm happy to be able to go over this one because I still believe that this was the best trade I've taken so far in my career. Before I go over the charts, by the way, I'll be using stocks to trade to show you guys exactly where I took my entries, where I took my exits, what I was thinking. I'm going to go over briefly the catalyst that led me to taking this trade. Okay, so the catalyst I've identified here is that we have a breakout over multi-day highs, which very important. I'll get into that in a moment. Well, actually, no, I'll get into it right now. So, why do I like a breakout over multi-day highs? So, if you understand where PURA was coming from, it was part of the marijuana sector, which was extremely hot a few weeks back, and for a couple months at one point. And it was a big runner for, I think they're probably like CBD infused drinks or something like that. I think that's what their, the hype was for them. They had been a big runner previously, about like a week and a half before I, played this particular setup. And so, since they were a big runner, that means a lot of traders, it's going to be on their watch list. People are going to be looking out for former runners. That's just the way the game works. Now next, going into the catalyst, as I mentioned, hot sector marijuana. It had strong volume. It had news. I actually bought on October 10th. The news was on the 9th. But, just the fact that there was really good news just the day before and the market didn't seem to react to it, that tells me that maybe people just didn't see the news. I like having as many catalysts as possible to, lead or for me to enter a trade. And I believe that the more catalysts there are, the more potential upside there is. You'll also see that I wrote down that it was closing strong. We'll get into that in a moment when I break down the chart. And I actually found out that it was a pump later on after I had taken the trade, which definitely helped. So, and you might be like, well, Mason, aren't you concerned that you bought a pump? And are you concerned that you didn't know it was a pump? To a certain extent, yes, but I'm never really concerned about being long a pump overnight on the way up. Now, on the way down after it collapses, yes, I'm not really a big fan of swinging pump and dumps overnight after they have collapsed, mainly because I'm concerned about potential SEC investigation and stuff like that. All right, now I'm going to get into the chart itself. So just give me one moment. Okay, fantastic. So here is the daily chart. We have, this is the day that I bought right here on this day. And then I sold the next day into a big morning spike. As I mentioned before, the stock ran really big, or ran quite a bit on this day right here. I think it's September 27th. And there was a big volume. I'm sure they had news, part of a hot sector. And it kind of just trended up for a few days. And then, pulled back on the daily chart. And I remember the day I took this trade. I'll pull up the intraday chart in just a moment. There really weren't any runners, so this is kind of what I was focusing on. And since they had news the previous day, and there was no reaction to it, I was thinking, okay, maybe it'll sink into the market on this day. So let me go into the intraday chart for just a moment. Okay. Where is it? Here we go. Okay. So this is the 1 minute chart. In a moment I might switch it to 5 minutes, but I want you to see something that's important. Okay, I like stocks that are strong. And what do I consider a strong stock? A strong stock is a stock that continues to hit new highs. Now, I was watching this, I kind of had it on my radar in the morning after it spiked, but I missed this little midday move right here. And after I saw that, that's when I started watching it closely. But let me explain why I did not buy this midday breakout. Frankly, it was just too soon in the day. Way too soon. Something to keep in mind is that the reason that midday moves fail so often is because what is the market? The market is you and me and everyone else. And we're people. What do we do around midday? We leave and go get lunch. So that means that there's less participants, and therefore it makes it harder for a stock to go up in price because there aren't as many buyers. And so since that was midday, that's why I avoided that move. And then, it didn't make it very far. It only made it like, 0.2 of a penny or something up. And it kind of shook out some of the people that bought that move, pulled back slightly. And then right over here, I was watching level 2 for a while, and there was this million share seller who kept moving his order down. And he moved his order down, and one more thing I need to note is that the previous high of the day from this morning spike was 0.075. And when he moved his order down all the way to 0.075, somebody took him out, and it reclaimed that high a day. So I liked that because that showed me that pretty much everybody who bought this earlier high a day break had been shaken out, and now the stock was free to continue higher. So as soon as I saw that, I bought up here in this area. I bought 400,000 shares at a like 0.0765 average or something like that. And I want to go ahead and say that when I took this trade, I did not intend to swing it overnight yet. I thought it had a chance to go test its breakout level, and that's exactly what it did. So I watched it, watched it go up. I was extremely comfortable, and whenever it got up towards the breakout level, which I believe was like 0.087, I wanted to see how it reacted, and it blew right through it on low volume. So I was like, okay, cool. I consider this a breakout. For me, a breakout, whether it's into a straight up spike or not, once it takes out the previous resistance level on the daily chart, it is a breakout. So yeah, that is my rule. And so once it broke out, I was like, my trade kind of transformed a little bit. I was like, okay, this is a very nice setup here. We have to see how it closes. And sure enough, anybody who was buying up here, they got shaken out for a moment. They think it was a failed breakout. But in reality, if I was adding to my position, I probably would have been adding somewhere in here. I know that's easy to say, but considering that, I already had a full position going into it, that's why I didn't add. I definitely would have been looking to buy somewhere in here. And now here's a very important concept in my opinion, because I said I bought 400,000 shares. My intention was that if it didn't close relatively near its highs, I was going to sell half of my shares and protect myself. A concept for me when it comes to trading is that I believe stocks, every individual stock has its own personality. And PURA in the past, up to this point, had the tendency not to close strong. It wouldn't close strong. And it would generally maybe have a slight gap up the next morning and then get flushed. So with that being said, the question that arises is, why did I decide to swing a full position overnight? Well, it did something that is out of character for it. It closed extremely strong and it was hitting new highs. So because of that, and because of all the other catalysts that I've already mentioned, I was willing to give it a shot the next day. Now I'm going to pull up the intraday chart for the next day. So during pre-market, it started gapping up at the open. And, right out of the gate, it needed about 2 minutes of consolidation. As you can see, this big candle right here, there were probably some profit takers right at the market open. But then after that, it started to rip. And as you see, it has a big spike here, pullback, big spike, just continues to go up. Well, I'm going to point out where I sold. So I sold my first half of shares right here in this area, right here, and I sold the rest right here. And now let me explain why. So considering that PURA closed as strong as it did, based on my previous experience up to this point, I thought that it had a really, really good chance of having an extremely strong morning spike. So going into, the selling component of this trade, I promised myself that I would not get emotional, that I would ignore the intraday spikeage and pulling back and just wait for a huge move. Now that's a little bit of a gamble, I know, but I was willing to take that chance and it worked out well. And so I did not sell in pieces in this. Well, I guess I sold in 2 pieces, but basically I know this is kind of ambiguous, and this is where trading is more of an art than a science. From my experience, I thought it could get in the morning somewhere between 12 and 14 cents. And, its morning top ended up being 13.5. I ended up selling in the 12s and the 13s. And so I was pretty good about my estimation as to what it could do. Now let's go into my sells briefly. So why did I sell right here? Yeah, or right here. So why did I sell? Well, like I said, my goals they were being met. Once my goals begin to be met, I start for sure closing out my trade. So once I got into the 12s, I sold half, and I just wanted to see how much higher I could ride it up. And I actually made the sell decision based on once it got near 13 cents, I was closing in on 20K in profits on this particular trade. And so that was satisfying for me. So I didn't even have to think about it. I was like, okay, I'll take my 20K. And so I put my order in at 13 cents. It got filled. And the reason I really wanted to sell it there and not be patient with it the rest of the day, because as you can see, it started to hit new highs and actually got up near 15 cents, was that I knew after a big morning spike like that, at some point there was bound to be a big pullback. And I really didn't want to be there for that because I knew it would screw with my psyche. So yeah. So basically, I feel like I've pretty much covered what I want to cover. I think the one thing I can think of that I didn't quite bring up beforehand when I bought was my risk level. Something to note, especially when I'm playing these penny stocks, my philosophy on these is that bigger risk, bigger reward. So with these types of plays, I would have definitely taken a bigger loss had I been wrong. The level I for sure would have cut it at would have been if it had gone red on the day, for sure. But based on my experience, I know what a stock should and shouldn't do. So on this particular trade, it was more of an arbitrary risk level. And so let's say maybe I bought over here and then it just started to flush. I would have been taking off some shares for sure to protect myself because I knew that what the setup I was looking for, it should have kept hitting new highs. Well, yeah, I think that's about all I want to cover with PURA. I know it wasn't necessarily a perfect description of this trade, but I'm happy to share what I was thinking. I just hope that you guys are able to find value in what I had to offer here. So before we wrap up, let me bring up something real quick. Okay. So the key takeaways, in my opinion, what you should be focusing on, because I'll say this. In this video, I have provided you with a lot of information, and that can be extremely overwhelming. So I encourage you to come back, watch it again, just listen to what I'm having to say, because everything that I wrote down, once I begin to dissect a trade, there are so many different things on my mind. But I feel, after sitting here and thinking about this, trying to teach this to a beginner, what are the key takeaways? These are the key takeaways in my opinion. It's a breakout if it breaks through a former resistance level. So whether that's into a straight up spike or not, it's a breakout. And by the way, I don't buy breakouts into straight up spikes. Just wanted to point that out. Stocks have personalities, which is extremely important to understand. You need to tune out the intraday noise and focus on the big picture setup. And I managed to do that on the morning spike the day after I had bought. Like I said, I ignored everything that was happening and waited until it reached my goals. And I guess the last point to make is that patience leads to larger gains. I stuck to my plan. I'm very happy about this trade, and frankly, it was pretty easy for me because I was prepared. And if you want to be able to capture large gains, large percent gains, large dollar gains, it's all about your preparation. So I guess, guys, that's all I've got for the moment. Please, 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 please let me know how you like this video. Um, I'm completely willing to share more content. I just want to know that you guys are finding value here. As I kind of mentioned for a moment, I know this probably isn't going to be the perfect video. I would like to be able to condense what I have to say um, in the future. But I just really wanted to make sure that y'all know exactly what I was thinking when I took this trade, buys, sells, and whatnot. Definitely follow me on social media. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. There's more. I will be providing more content in the future. Leave comments on what you want to see. I've been getting some common questions. I'll probably write a blog post soon. I'm also considering vlogging as well. We'll see. I'm kind of just running experiments right now. Lastly, guys, I guess the last thing I just want to say is, I don't know exactly where you are at in your trading journey, but you can do it. Like, it's not going to be easy. It's not. Like, it really is not going to be easy. There's a reason that 90% of traders fail. There's a lot of reasons 90% of traders fail, but this is not an easy journey. But please, I'm begging you, like, stick with it. There is opportunity here. I hope my results speak for that. Tim Grattani, Tim Sykes, Stephen Dux, all these guys, like, there is something here. It can be done. Just know that it's going to require extreme dedication, preparation, focus, any word you want to throw out there. Just know that I believe in you. I believe in everyone. Everyone is capable of doing what I have been able to do, what these other guys have been able to do. You got to stay focused. And yeah, I guess I'll leave it at that. I really appreciate your time. It's been a pleasure being able to share this trade with you guys. And I will catch up with you guys in the future. Have a great night.